You triggered.
Well, hello, everyone. Oh, yeah.
No worries.
Oh.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Gilman Info session. My name is Eden. I'm one of the IPE advisors. I am going to hand it over to our presenters. It's all on them to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sasha. I'm a part of the Society of Women Engineers, and I'm here presenting with Marissa on the Gilman Scholarship.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go to the next slide because I'll introduce myself with this. Okay, so I'm Marissa. Over like this past summer, I went to the engineering laboratory experience at TUB in Berlin. While I was there, I spent 3 weeks in a language course, and 5 weeks in a lab course. So it was a 6-week program. 2 of the weeks overlapped with language and lab. So a little bit about me for background. I'm a junior this year. I major in mechanical engineering, 2 minors, physics and the international minor. On campus, I'm involved in Michigan Baja Racing, Pi Tau Sigma, Cost Assistance for Resilient Engineers, and the Engineering Honors Program. I don't have a lot of free time, but when I do have free time, I love to play volleyball and attend Michigan football and hockey games. So, like I said, I went abroad to TUB. So while I was there, some of my like big takeaways from that experience was I got to do a lot of things that supplement my interests. So as a mechanical engineer, I'm on a racing team here. I'm very interested in just like vehicles, and that's like what I want my end career to be. So like if you could see from the bottom right photo, I got to go to the BMW motorcycle factory and take a tour and kind of see how they build their motorcycles and how they test them. So that was really great to supplement some of my interests. And then the bottom left photo, in Berlin, they have like parks of just sand volleyball courts. There's like 40 of them. And so one night a week, all my friends and I would go rent out a volleyball court and we would just play all night. So that was really great because that's like one of my favorite things to do with my friends. So yeah, some other things that I learned while I was abroad, to observe and understand before you take action. So obviously, going to a place that you've never been, there are going to be cultural differences. And I found that it was kind of really great for myself and those around me to kind of observe my environment and learn how to behave in it before I kind of took action. And also how to reflect on my own culture. So when I got back, I don't know if any of you guys are doing the international minor, but one of the courses that you have to take for that is Engineering 460, which is kind of in addition to your like experience abroad and kind of learning how you can tie that back to your previous experience and how that builds like your character. So I kind of learned that in order to reflect on someone else's culture, the first thing you need to do is understand your own culture. So I learned a little bit on how to reflect on that, which was great. So how did Gilman help me? My program costed around $7,500 with tuition. The tuition itself is about $4,400. So Gilman covered all the extras. My Gilman scholarship was $3,000. So like literally it took care of like almost everything but my tuition. So that kind of did a lot for me in terms of like it paid for my airplane ticket, my luggage, my meals while I was there, and my travel on the side. So speaking of travel on the side, part of what that allowed me to do is explore a little bit outside Berlin. I got to see Rome, Budapest, and Prague on some different weekends throughout my trip. So Rome is the top photo, and then the bottom one is Prague. And applying was super quick for the Gilman Scholarship. At least I thought it was. It probably took me like 3 hours over spring break. So I set aside one day on spring break to just apply to all the different like funding opportunities that I learned about through IPE. And I spent the whole day doing that. And I think Gilman, like I said, probably took me about 3 hours of that.
And just to say a bit about me, my major is material science engineering. I'm currently a junior, and I really enjoy traveling, doing things doing things in nature, and just learning about different languages and anime. So that's kind of why I went abroad. Outside of the anime part, all of those things were kind of met by so. And my favorite engineering org on campus would have to be Society of Women Engineers, just because I'm the most active in that, and there's just events every week that should go. And outside of that, this is a fun fact for me, but I'm really into thrill seeking or just exploring things in general. And so there's a place called Cedar Point in Ohio that I went to. And even though the ride no longer exists, there was a Jackson, it was once considered one of the tallest rides in the world. And so I went on that. So that was exciting. Um, but more about traveling abroad. So some things I took away while being abroad is to use the local greetings and behaviors. I found that I'd gotten really far in Italy, especially because although I hadn't studied the language prior too much, I learned the general greetings, and with that, I was able to get happier interactions with the people there, especially since I was in their country for about 2 months, and I was seeing people. I was with the local community on a daily basis, and got to actually know a lot of faces. I was better able to build a relationship with them and even get free foods and free like beverages out of it occasionally by just like opening myself up to other cultural interactions, even from the grocery stores and like the restaurants there, and just saying things like ciao and like ones are not that, and then that took me a long way. Also recognizing the different dining customs and etiquette behaviors there. In the country you're visiting. For Italy specifically, they or I think in Europe in general, in contrast to American culture, they tend to do things a bit more leisurely and more patient. So instead of just having a dinner setting be about an hour to maybe an hour and a half, a dinner setting can easily last up to 3 hours, which was a big culture shock. And then just asking for the bill and etc. Like you have to really be firm or really be clear about when you would like to leave, or else like they assume that you're here for a long time. And so just recognizing the types of situations you're going to be in while just living abroad is important. And it's also just vital to just be open-minded and comfortable with things being different from your typical dining experiences or general day in, day out experiences in Europe. So lastly, that also brings me into how you present yourself to them. And I know that there's a lot about, or a lot of information out there regarding how formally you should dress and what you should wear, but it's really location dependent. It's really location dependent, and so if you were to be in a church or a more formal setting, that's when you would probably wear longer garments and like cover yourself up. However, I was actually quite surprised when I realized a lot of the Italians who are about in like 18 to 21 in our age, you're kind of like us, are kind of dressed very casually with shorts in the summer and a crop top in the summer too. So don't, and a lot of articles I would say online kind of aren't as updated to that or not as unique. So yes, be mindful of how you dress and how you present yourself, but also be a little lenient with yourself and feel free to dress as you are. Like you're not, I mean, wherever you're going, you're not a native there, so I don't think you have to try too hard to fit in. But thank you. Oh. Sorry, feel good. I actually have this question. Yeah, well, but well, I see. Got it. It's wonderful. Yeah, understood. Oh, all the way up there. Problem solving. Dang. I'm assuming it's from there, but I don't know. Oops. Yep, you're almost there. Thank you. Are we there? Yeah, actually, maybe, I can't tell if that's actually the right thing or not. Is it over yet? Sorry, guys.
Does anyone have any questions about anything in the meantime? Like, you can ask me about my life if you want to, just anything, so in. No? Okay, cool.
That was it. What was your favorite part about traveling abroad?
Oh, that's a tough question. Okay, so there was a lot of things that I really liked about it. I am hoping to work in Italy maybe when I'm older. So seeing Rome, I loved that because it was like, I take Italian while I'm here. That's partly for the international minor as well. So just kind of like using those like skills, that was great. I loved it so much. And it was also really great just to see something different. The weather in Berlin was actually very similar to the weather in Ann Arbor, but it was like the city itself, I had never been in a big city. So that was super great to experience like living in that. And yeah, just kind of like always trying something new. It was really great.
Did you go to a lot of different countries outside of
It was just those three, Italy, Czech Republic, and Hungary. And like I stopped in Switzerland on the train, but like that doesn't count. It was just the train station.
All right, sorry about that, guys. So, what you want to do when you're traveling? Research and plan out your trip. Um, Hopefully they can provide you with an itinerary so you guys can know what your day-to-day looks like. But it's really easy to just plan it. As long as you're planning 3 weeks ahead at a time, if you're trying to travel outside of your program, it should be fine in terms of cost and prices. But also just research the type of environments you might be seeing, research the city, the culture of life, and just things you might want be interested in doing, and maybe just like get a friend group going earlier. Also, it was really helpful to get a local SIM card, which is just what you would utilize when trying to connect to like cellular data outside of outside of the United States in general. So that was really helpful to have on hand. There's also a virtual one in which you can just like pay. Yeah. There's different types of SIM cards, but I found that very essential to like make sure I had access to Wi-Fi at all times during my trip. And then secondly, since I had done a lot of solo traveling, going to different countries, it was really important to when I was booking a hostel or if I was trying to meet up with people that my accommodations were easily locatable in a nice part of the city, not too outside of the way. And I feel like for me, or solo traveling was important to me because not everyone wanted to do what I wanted to do in terms of seeing Europe and had different structures. So in terms of and so I kind of ran into a bunch of hiccups on the way as I learned these skills. But yeah, so making sure that you know when the airport is closing, times like that, when check-in is occurring at the hotels or establishments you're in trying to get to, as well as making sure that there's a safe way to transport and safe transportation system that's reliable to get to and from your destination is really important. In addition to that, joining tour groups or finding groups of people amongst who are in this similar age group as you are really helpful. And then you can just make friends abroad. I actually am still it's only been like 6 months, but I'm still in good contact with some people I just randomly met in Prague or like Switzerland who like just happen to speak English and happen to be my same age group because a lot of European students are also touring during the summer semesters if you're traveling in the summer. And so that was really nice for me to just go outside of my range because in Sorrento, the whole program was like American. And so that's not the experience I wanted per se. Or yeah, I wanted to branch out a bit more. And so joining groups like that and using different travel apps was really helpful for making international friends. And then also I had done a bit of backpacking. And so it was important to just travel during the day just to make sure I got my bearings and kind of got to know my area before I ventured off that night. And I never did this alone, but just with people I had just recently met. And I clearly had a good time and didn't have run into any issues traveling with people, but it's always just to set yourself up for success for these different types of interactions. And it was although like traveling in a group is much cheaper, because of the Gilman, I was able to use a lot of extra money to just travel and go as I feel and just do different hotels and stuff. And so that's why I really recommend applying for the scholarship. And so we'll get more into how to do that now. And so more about the scholarship. So Gilman is geared towards people who don't always have the financial means or accessibility to receiving funding for their trips. And so nearly 70% identify as a racial or ethnic minority, and a lot come from rural or small towns. And this does not exempt anyone who does not fit into these categories. However, this is the, well, yeah, this is Gilman's target audience. And so if you do feel a bit uncertain about your current study abroad situation and you're, because of the funding, they're most likely to help you. And in addition to that, they service over 3,000 students every year in terms of the support they get. I personally received like 3,500, and it also, yeah, 3,500. And I think the max is about 4,000 for trips that aren't related to critical language studies. And so they have a lot of money to give out, and they're really here to just make sure your first experience or your first time abroad is incredible. Yeah. And oops, okay, 5,000. Okay, so they give a lot of, from 5,000 to $8,000 is how much you can receive from the Gilman. And they do this for all seasons. And the application being due around the first week of March. And so, I mean, the most upcoming one being due around that time. But yes, they have plenty of scholarships to go around. So I definitely recommend applying because it's a great help to covering the tuition and any other additional expenses you guys may incur during your travels. And if you also happen to be going to a country in which the language is, well, that's declared to be a critical needs language, they also offer additional 3,000, which is how you can get up to $8,000 in scholarship funding, which for a lot of people could even potentially cover their entire trip. And so if you haven't fully decided on where you plan to be traveling, as the scholarship kind of runs year round, you could try to prioritize a location that includes one of these languages. And also the Gilman also offers a chance to prove your proficiency in that language for free. So they'll give you the testing location. You can take it and prove that you're either like a level 3 or 4 in one of these specific languages without any cost of your own, which is a nice benefit. But, yes. And then lastly, if you plan to do any STEM abroad or an internship, they also have a final $1,000 that you could earn, which is, I think, yeah. So depending on what you're prioritizing this summer or for your trip, the Gilman can help you out in a multitude of ways. But the $4,000 applies, or the up to $5,000 scholarship applies to most people. And once you become a Gilman member, you're kind of a part of this nice society for the entire duration of your academic career and beyond that. And so this non-competitive eligibility organization basically means that since the Gilman is a governmental scholarship in itself, you, when applying for jobs within the United States or for internships, you're prioritized separately. And so you get into a little more niche section of people who are applying for these governmental positions just because since you are a Gilman scholar. And so this is also helpful for networking with other people who have been in the program or who would like to hire people with international experience and who have gone through this, because the Gilman process kind of also just heightens your cultural awareness just due to the questions it asks for the scholarships and the requirements that you're expected to meet. One of them, we'll get into that later, but Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities associated with the Gilman Scholarship outside of the actual funding you receive for your trip. So that's also nice to keep in mind. And yes, on to eligibility. So to qualify for the Gilman there, it does require that you are a US citizen or an undergraduate student. And also that you're visiting a country that has a 1 or 2 travel level advisory, which just kind of means that, well, advisory levels kind of change depending on the status of a country, whether it's like a warring state or if there's an epidemic happening. So during COVID, like we kind of noticed a trend of states or travel advisory levels being in a 3 or 4 range. A lot of those have calmed down now. So a lot more countries are safer you're allowed to visit, but just keeping in mind what country you're visiting and making sure it fits these qualifications is helpful in terms of becoming eligible for the Gilman Scholarship. And secondly, there's a Gilman McCain Scholarship, which is more so targeted towards people who have militant members in their family, and most of the credentials are the same, except for if you have a member or a person in service in your family, you could apply for both the regular Gilman and you could apply for this military-based application as well. And that leads us into the application overall.
Yeah, okay, so here's how you can apply for this. There's 2 steps to your application. One, you'll fill out on your own. So it includes, you'll like fill out a little description of your program and kind of what you're going to be doing while you're abroad. There are 3 essays at a minimum that you have to write. I'll get into those in a second. You have to provide unofficial transcripts for every college you've attended. So for myself, that meant U of M, as well as I've taken courses over the summer at community colleges. So I had to find those transcripts and report them as well. And then you'll select your advisors. So through IPE, you'll have an advisor for your specific program. I believe, though, on the Gilman Scholarship, you will all put Diane Sarin as your program advisor. And then also a financial aid advisor. So how I went about finding this, I think when I filled out the scholarship, there were like 3 different like U of M financial aid advisors that you could select. It has like a drop down once you identify your college. So I think I picked one of them and reached out to their UMISH email address and just said, hey, my name's Marissa, I'm applying for the scholarship. Is it all right if I put your contact information down? Or like if I select you as my financial aid advisor? And she said, yep, go ahead. So I did that. And then your application will be sent to your 2 different advisors that you've identified, and they'll complete a separate portion of it. So for the essays, like I said, there's 3 of them. The first is your statement of purpose. So a personal interview, you and your program and your goals while you're in your program, as well as how you're going to meet challenges that are posed to you while you're abroad. So it's maximum 7,000 characters. Yeah, tips and tricks on this one. I think that for this essay specifically, I focused pretty heavily on what I wanted to get out of my program, and just tried to connect that back to like if I was presented with challenges, I would get through them by like the reason I'm interested in this program, I guess. And if you have questions on that kind of stuff, you can ask me when we're done with this presentation. You're also going to get a copy of these slides, and then we've hidden like slides that Gilman has given on like questions you can ask yourself as a checkpoint in your essay to make sure you're answering their topics. So if you apply to the Gilman Scholarship and you want to check yourself with those questions, you'll get those in a copy of this presentation. So the second essay, a little shorter, max 3,000 characters. It's community impact, building mutual understanding. So that is identifying what it means to you to be a US citizen while abroad, how you're going to seek opportunities to be engaged with the culture that you're abroad in, and how to seek opportunities to have meaningful interactions. So for this one, you know what, to be honest, I don't really remember how I filled out this essay, so I'd have to go back and reread what I wrote for that. And then the third essay, also 3,000 characters, is about your follow-on service project. So if you are awarded a Gilman Scholarship, everyone has to complete a follow-on service project. So what that means is you'll come back to the United States with some sort of purpose or thing that you want to do to spread the word of your trip abroad, as well as how Gilman helped you. So when you're filling out this essay, you're going to include being an effective citizen, diplomat while you're abroad, how you're going to give back and inspire others to study abroad, as well as like on campus or your in-home community. But then I would say the bulk of this essay is designing your plan of action. So definitely I filled out this essay by clearly identifying what I wanted to do for my follow-on service project when I got back. And I know that that sounds like super stressful. I remember filling out this application and being like, I haven't even been abroad yet. How do you want me to identify what I'm going to follow on service project when I get back? So the nice thing is there's some information on the Gilman website, kind of giving some sample projects and like some tips and tricks for ideas about what you might do. And then the really nice thing is if you go abroad and decide that you want to do something different than what you first identified your follow-on service project as, all you have to do is like you'll get a Gilman advisor if you get a scholarship, and you just submit to them kind of like a new proposal of what you want to do. And I didn't personally do this, but my understanding of the process is that it's not really a big deal if you decide to change your mind. You just like submit the new proposal and it pretty much will get cleared as long as you're putting in the right amount of work. So speaking of the right amount of work, I'm sure that's also kind of stressful. I'm pretty sure when I was filling out my like service report, the maximum you could select as the amount of time you put into a project is 10 hours. So 10 hours is like a weekend. Like it's not anything like too hot or heavy. And a lot of it is just about spreading the word of Gilman. So personally, I used this presentation as part of my follow-on service project. So yeah. Yeah.
Do you know that's a like plan of action?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. If you do have to do some sort of plan of action, but if you fill out a certain plan of action and you decide that that's not what you want to do anymore, that's when you can submit that like proposal change request. Yeah, but everyone does have to do one project of some sort. Yeah, what's up?
Yes, it was like loading out on something.
I think it does need to be like a little bit more than just social media. That being said, promotion is like a huge aspect of it. So I think that if you wanted to do something that was strictly promotion, you just might need to do more on like the presentation, giving talks side of it. But yeah, definitely the Gilman like website will have information about like ideas related to that kind of a thing if you're interested in that. Any other questions on this? Yeah, I know I was super stressed when I read this at first, but I promise it's not that big a deal. Okay, so then there are two optional essays that are just extensions if you're going for those other scholarships that Sasha was telling you about. So for instance, the Critical Need Language Award essay, max 2,000 characters, it's even shorter than the other ones. Yay. So you'll identify, is it a critical need language? Is it predominantly spoken in the country you're going to? How does it relate to your academic or career goals, as well as motivations for improving language proficiency academically, professionally, and personally? And then the last essay that you could fill out as like a supplement to your application is if you're going for that STEM award. To my understanding, the STEM award is specifically for research. So I think there are some IPE programs that do research that you could apply to this like supplement one. So you'll talk about if your STEM research is associated with your study abroad program, describing its contributions to your future goals, and demonstrating your motivations to the STEM fields. So again, more questions as checkpoints to ask yourself while you write these essays will be in the slides that we sent you. Okay, so for selection criteria, what Gilman will use as a benchmark for your application to determine whether you should be awarded a scholarship or not, are these things. So the impact of your program on your personal goals, academically and professionally, your impact on your community once you return home, your academic preparedness, diversity of background and experience, commitment to proficiency in a critical need language and a STEM field, if those are scholarships that you're applying for. So for deadlines, can everyone do me a favor? Raise your hand if you're going abroad in the summer. Okay, that's everyone. Perfect. So, if anyone's on this recording who is not going abroad over the summer, you can see the application information there. But for those of you right now, everyone's in the summer. So your due date is going to be March 7th. 11:59 p.m., but in Pacific time, so that's actually 3 a.m. Please don't be working on this at 3 a.m. Yeah, so that's the date, March 7th. Don't forget it. My personal recommendation to you is to do what I did, spend some time over spring break. It actually worked out really nicely because I slept in, and then in the afternoon I did financial aid things. Yeah, and then your advisors have their own deadline. It's a week after yours, so don't stress about getting their stuff in. They're also really good about getting everything in on time. So definitely, like, don't worry about their part. You only need to worry about yours. Okay, application tips. Create a compelling story that ties your past, present, and future to highlight the impact the scholarship will have on you. That's really wordy. I would summarize that as really highlight kind of what your program is going to connect with your goals, like how that's going to connect, and how the scholarship will help you achieve that. So like for instance, for myself, I didn't do this, by the way, before I say this, but I could have done this. Like I said, I want to work in Italy when I'm older. And I was going to use the Gilman money to help supplement my travel there. So maybe I could talk about that, how I would love to use the Gilman Scholarship to help benefit my career goals by taking the time and going to see Italy and kind of funding that. Start the application early, be your true self, and have confidence that you are worthy. Be authentic on this application. I know like when you're kind of writing about yourself, like just at any point in your life, even like on college applications, like it just kind of sounds like you're BSing everything when you write about yourself. But I would just like say to just be authentic. The more authentic you are, the better it will us. For your follow-on service project, think about your community and local schools. Think of how you heard about Gilman and how you can tell others about it. Like I said, I use this presentation as part of my follow-on service project. So you could talk about in your application how you came to this and how you're going to do something similar after you get back to the United States. And if you don't apply, you'll never get it. So that's like, I don't know, I read that and it gave me like the office vibes. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So just take the shot. You never know, you might get it. So some additional resources for international exchange. These can all be found on this website that you see here. So critical language scholarship program, Fulbright US student program, and Boren scholarships and fellowships. Those are just additional scholarships that you could apply to. They are not related in any way to Gilman, other than the fact that all of the above are government scholarships. Okay, so here are some flyers that you could scan the QR code for, so you can get additional information about Gilman and Gilman McCain, which is that one that Sasha was saying. If you have members of your family that are active duty or first responders, maybe too. So yeah, you can scan those. Anyone need the slides still? Gilman contact information. So this, yeah, that email is sent to like anyone in Gilman. Once, if you do get a scholarship, once you get your advisor, they'll have like a specific email that will be like more personalized. Obviously, they're your advisor. But for now, while you're just applying, everyone will use that like general email. And then there's the website, so you can kind of get some of those like additional tips that I was telling you about in relation to your follow-on service project and just more information about the scholarship at Gilman. Due date reminder, March 7th. Please don't forget. Just do it over spring break. It'll make your life easy, I promise. Okay, and then here's our contact information. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions about this at all. Yes, that's my email. There's Sasha's up there. And then Diane's email is on the right side of the screen. So like I said, she'll be who you select as your like study abroad advisor on the Gilman Scholarship. So if you want to reach out to her, go ahead, shoot. Any questions about anything? Yeah.
Isn't it cool, like, so you go in there, like, how manageable or like.
Very. Very manageable. Yeah. I would say I don't think I got any homework over the summer. So I was in, like I said, I was in a language course and a lab. My language course was intro level German. I think maybe I had one worksheet over all the 3 weeks that I was in it. And it was like I don't know if you took like a language in high school, but you remember when you would get like those like stupid little like, oh, fill in the blank. I mean, like describe this photo. Like it was just like that. I think it took me maybe half hour. And then the lab course was a little bit more bulky, but it was just kind of like I had a lab report at the end that I had to do, and that was really the thing that I had to do outside of class. But I would say that, yeah, for the most part, like it was very manageable. Yeah.
How competitive is this show?
I would say, I think it's about 15,000 to 20,000 people apply, but given that 3,000 get it, it's like a 1 in 4 chance, but not pretty good. Like it's that math, but yeah.
I actually think that that's crazy.
So not too competitive, not as competitive as you need to get was.
Maybe I would say, like, when would you find out if you get a scholarship? I know you said you
Yeah.
found out actually when you were abroad.
Yes. So it was actually a nice little surprise. I had been in Germany for 2 weeks at this point, and then I got an email that was like, oh, your status has changed. Check your Gilman portal. And then I logged in and it was like, congratulations, here's $3,000. I was like, oh, this is sick. Okay, cool. So that, yeah, that was what really kind of pushed me over the edge to do more like independent travel. For me, that was the 3rd week of May. So there's definitely quite a bit of downtime before you'll find out. But yeah, if that, like if you're looking for that 3rd week of May-ish.
Well, can you say those statistics again, like, how to qualify?
Okay, so I would say as of last year, about 25% of the people who applied got in. I'm not certain of how many people applied this year, but I think the number has been around like 20,000, 25,000 applicants. And they accepted they were about 3,000 people. But that might have changed.
So when you're planning for your finances for study abroad, still plan like you're not getting the
Yeah.
scholarship.
Yes.
We probably won't find out about it until you're actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like right before you're about to leave.
Be a
Happy surprise. That's what happened to me. It was great. I got back from class and like I didn't check my email at class and I got back and it was like, oh, this is awesome. And then the rest of my night was great. I think I was actually playing sand volleyball that night. So I went and I was like all excited with my friends. And guess what?
Also, a little caveat to the academic question when you're abroad. So a lot of European, like they said, probably not going to get much homework, but that does mean it's usually like that final exam is like almost all of your grade. So you have to be a lot more self-paced and make sure you're actually learning. You definitely don't want to like have a lot of fun and then the week before your finals, you have to like learn the entire course. So just even though you're not being checked up on with like quizzes and things like that, make sure you're still like setting aside enough time to actually learn.
Yeah, yeah. On that note, too, we found that the people we're taking these travel abroad or study abroad programs with have to be reasonable about their homework expectations and their exam expectations. So it's not going to, like, if you're going out abroad to take physics or something difficult like that, it's definitely not going to be UM level because they want people to enjoy their time and actually experience the culture of the city. So I know for me, I kind of was a bit lax on the exams and they had a 20% extra credit thing to do. And so that really changed my grade for me. But yeah, so they definitely want everyone to do well and also enjoy the experience there. And then in addition to that, you might, if you're able to, you might want to consider planning your classes around when you would like to schedule. Because I know for me that unfortunately my classes were mandatory Mondays and Fridays, which made it really hard to travel on the weekend. So if you can get like all your classes like 4 days in a row and then have that whole weekend free, that's gonna be really bad.
If you think of something later, like I said, feel free to shoot me an email. Both of us, an email. I'll be answering stuff over spring break too. So if you're filling out the application and you're like, oh man, I can't remember what you said about this thing, just go ahead and shoot me.
And also, she really emphasized going up onto the Gilman website and just reading the research that they have. I found those incredibly helpful because they kind of guide you about exactly what makes like a stellar Gilman successful presentation. I think they even include some samples of what people have said. And so just going through those in your downtime and just figure out what's quality about them and what makes people stand out, it's going to be really helpful in your success in getting in. And then also, as you had mentioned before, making that really personable. Questions to go there. Please.
Thank you very much to our two presenters. We had a recording, so I think we can
Oh,
stop
yeah.
that now. So they're gonna send you the